Okay, we are recording. Kevin, how are you today?
Yeah, not at all bad, Stu. How's it going?
Good, good, mate. Well, look, before we do anything, let's just kick straight off and do the track that we start things with. And I want you to tell me, please, Kevin, the track that you regard as having the greatest ever intro.
Well, it's got the greatest intro for me because it just lifts me. Every time I hear that intro, I can't help but want to dance. And the song is Tell Me What You Want by Jimmy Ruffin.
Our record.
Yeah, yeah.
Tell me about how you come to sort of hear that, because and also I want to ask you as well when it comes to songwriting and and sort of the kind of soul influences that are present in Dexys music over the years. So much of that kind of sort of early soul music is so instant. Like, if you look at Motown, Stacks and stuff like that, the intros are so instant, like the Jimmy Ruffin track. It just makes
Yeah.
you want to dance with
Yeah.
in an instant. And and I'm intrigued to know like how, if because if you look at the way that people consume their music now, certainly younger audiences are now looking at apps and Spotify playlists where attention spans seem to be getting shorter. Does any of them kind of ways that the industry, has changed, does any of that filter through? It's a long-winded question. Is I'm getting there, and I hope
It
you
is.
understand where I'm
I'm
going
trying to
with
keep
it,
up with it.
Kevin.
Trying to keep
Sorry,
up with it.
mate.
It's all right.
But all of these sort of like changes in like people listening to music on TikTok and these super fast, um, uh, attention spans. Does any of that filter through into your creative process when you're writing a song?
I don't think it does, but I think we've always had a good edit button,
Yeah,
like in music, in writing music, it should never get boring. You've got to keep the momentum up or go down or change the mood and
sure.
then bring it back. You've got to have dynamics in a track. And you've got to have a great intro and you can't, what does it say? Don't bore us, get to the chorus.
Yeah,
That's unless you've really got something good that's going on. I mean, Eileen, for example, to use an old example, took a good while to get to the chorus. And of course, the other thing is that's got a long instrumental intro. Radio wouldn't play that now a lot of the
yeah.
time. You know what I mean? They just wouldn't. But those intros were hooky. The way we looked at it, it was a musical hook. It wasn't a vocal hook, but it was a musical hook. So, no, I think the principles of just don't bore people, keep it interesting. Doesn't matter if it's a short track or a long track, it's got to
Mm.
be interesting. Those principles still hold true. Yeah, and we're probably the opposite way. What we've done is we've written an album, the new album, The Feminine Divine. It's actually an album. It's got a narrative. It starts with track one, and then it tells a story till the end of the album. Each song is part of the story, a narrative, a journey of a guy. Starts off really macho, and then he says, "Well, that's not really who I am." And then he looks at his relationship with women, and he gets into a relationship, and that plays out on the album. So we're going the opposite way. We're not working in short tracks or whatever. We've made an album that is an album to be listened to
Yeah.
in one piece. But if people choose to just pick a track here, fair enough.
Well, in regards to what you just said there, like people pick a track. Um, I love what you said there. That there's a concept to the album, and it is to be listened to as a body of work.
Yeah.
Do you think that that is something that if you're starting, to form bands now, you approach that in maybe a different way? Do you think it is more about the single and the album as a sort of form of media seems to be? I don't know. I grew up just devouring record sleeves and wanting to hear, of what's going on. I wanted to hear the album from start to finish. Do you think that is something that seems to be getting lost? Maybe.
Uh, I don't really know. I just do what we just do what we do. That just
Yeah.
seemed like the right thing to do. We didn't even plan it to be a concept album. It was more the after a while I just looked at the songs. I'm like, hang on a minute. looked at the list and I thought, if we put that one first, that one second, this tells a story. So I just went with it. Didn't even start off like it, just turned out that was serendipity. I really don't know, but we're very lucky that, you know, times have changed a lot, and you know, we were the small label, very good label, working really hard, really believe in the album, and they're getting the music to people that are interested in it.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're going to find out. I don't know what the sales are yet, but it's going to be released in 10 days' time. So
yeah,
let's see what happens, you know. But
absolutely,
they're telling me it's going well. So let's see.
Fantastic. I'm going to take you back. And for track 2, Kevin, I'm going to ask you, please, to tell me the first song that you remember hearing that had an emotional impact on you, please.
Yeah. I mean, I loved, you know, silly little songs before that. But when I was about 7 or 8, I heard Elvis singing Can't Help Falling in Love with You. And I was just blown away by just how beautiful his voice was. And as I look back now, I wasn't conscious of what it was, but the arrangement was so perfect, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I had to ask you to sort of pinpoint the emotion that you got, what would it have been?
Oh, that's tough. It's a long time ago. Well, I just moved, you know, just a little bit sad, because it's a sad, although it's a beautiful song, it's quite a sad song. And it probably, you know, made me probably feel a little bit tearful, I would say, because you know, it just was so beautiful.
That still resonates today?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I love Elvis. What a talent.
Yeah. Well, look, we're sort of looking back now. And so can you tell us a little bit about where you grew up and how that was?
Sure. I was born in Wolverhampton. Apart from a couple of years in Ireland, I lived in Wolverhampton. I was just 11. And then we moved to Northwest London, Wembley, Harrow, mainly Harrow. And that's where I grew up, really.
Fond memories?
Some of them.
Yeah.
Some of them, you know. Yeah, you know, there's worse places to grow up, but it was, you know, it was lively.
Yeah.
It was lively around there. Everyone thinks Harrow, they think of Harrow on the Hill.
Yeah.
That's quite different.
Yeah, very different.
Yeah, very different down on there, very different. And yeah, it was all right, you know. I didn't like school or anything. I found it all the pressure, and I couldn't wait to leave, really.
What didn't I mean? We'll talk about. Well, let's discuss that then, because I want to know about the song that reminds you of your time at school, and then let's talk a little about school.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I was sort of 12 or 13 when Concrete and Clay by Unit 4+2 came out. And I think I was probably having my first little romance over the park, you know, so getting into kind of love songs. I'd moved from Wolverhampton at 11, and I had a broad Wolverhampton accent, you know, and that was a bit of a, you know, that was a subject for mirth from some of the kids. Got quite a lot of teasing about that. So I had to be a Cockney pretty quickly. But I still supported the Wolves, and whenever they play in London, I go and watch them. But you know, I had this sort of little girlfriend over the park, and you know, and it was sweet. It wasn't just, you know, it felt like a, you know, sort of very, very young sort of love, really, 12, 13. And that song, Concrete and Clay, just seemed to sum up how I felt.
I mean, hearing music like that, and talking about Elvis, and hearing that at such a young age, was home a musical place? Was you know, was there records on at home growing up?
Not that many. We didn't really. I think we had a record player from the age of about 11. Before that, we had this thing. I think it was called a. I don't know what it was called now. Something that sort of played records, but yeah. My brother Pete was very interested in music, and my sisters were interested in music, but parents didn't really buy a lot of records. But then, as we got a little bit older, they started to go out. And then they'd bring on a Friday or a Saturday night, and then they'd bring their friends home after they'd been out for a drink, most of whom were Irish, and there'd be a lot of singing. There'd be a lot of singing of songs. So I heard all these great Irish songs, which I'd never heard before. I heard them sung a cappella, and actually really well.
Yeah.
Guys who were working on building sites or whatever, you know, or women who were married to them. And then I would try and trace down records and find them. And quite often the versions weren't as good as the original ones I'd heard. I suppose you always like the original, you know.
Of course.
Yeah, there you go. So
Had
it
you
was sometimes musical, sometimes not. Anyway, yeah.
had you found your voice at that point? Was you singing along?
No, not really. I didn't. I don't think I really sang. No, I did when I was. Funny thing with me, I think I sort of sang probably up till I was about 12, and I think the puberty thing happened. Do you know what I mean? And after that, I just thought, oh, I don't know about that, and I didn't like my voice. There was a guy when I was about 14. He was in a band. And he had a guitar, and we're looking for a singer. Do you want to have a go? I went, yeah, I'll have a go. And then I got round his house, and he plugged in the microphone, and he plugged in his guitar in the amp and all of that. And I started singing, and the sound that came out, I hated it. He went, I said, no, I can't. He went, it sounds okay. I went, no, I can't. And that was that.
Was you a confident lad though? To someone say come and sing, you went yeah, and like to do
Well, that
that.
was
A lot of people had
bravado.
swerved that.
It was bravado. I think I was just sort of, it was bluster. And then when I got to it, when I got in his act and we turned the mic on, I thought, okay, now I've got to do something. That's when I froze.
Yeah. I mean, just to touch on school a little bit more. You
Yeah.
said you didn't like that. What was it you didn't like about school?
Well, I wasn't that good at it.
Yeah.
I just wasn't that academic. And my dad, he was in with the priest at the school, and he got me. I found out later, keeping me in the top stream, which I wasn't up to really. I should have been in the lower stream, and the teachers didn't want me in that stream. They wanted me in the lower stream. And my dad was trying to keep me there. I don't know why. And yeah, I just didn't like it really. All the discipline, and there was a lot of caning and in them days, and I seemed to get that quite a lot. A lot of bullying going on. It was a tough place.
Yeah.
Must have been the same for you, no?
Yeah, absolutely. School was shit. Hated it. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
couldn't
and
stand.
and had I mean, I remember going to the careers officer and they said, like, what do you want to do? And then I had to tick box this thing, which basically where I live in Essex, it was like, right, you go and work at Ford's, and that was it. And I was like, I want to be a musician. And
Yeah.
like they literally just you would blatantly just say, well, that's not going to happen. And did you have any idea what you wanted to do when you was at school?
I did at the primary school. I was always singing songs in the primary school, and I didn't have any fear then really. If the teacher would say, "Someone come up and sing a song," I'd just jump up. But as I got into secondary school, I think my confidence went really, and puberty, and then leaving school, and I just thought, well, I'm like you. I don't know if anybody said it to me, but they if they didn't say it to me, they said it to me in different ways. It just seemed completely unrealistic. It's just impossible. It's not going to happen. You just better get yourself a normal job, a good job. And so I tried all of that. And then I was very lucky. My brother, Pete, was in a working men's club band at weekends. And he got me in the band when I was about 21. And I just started then doing a few backing vocals with him, playing guitar, not that well. And then I started writing a couple of songs. And then I just thought one day I was going to form a band.
I want to ask you a little bit about when you formed the band, because looking at the timeline of the sort of, and I'm talking Dexys here, around the time that sort of you broke through and you had the with Gino, you also had UB40 coming through at the early Muttons of UB40 and the specials, and one thing that it seemed to me, Madness, further down south as well. And one of the things that really struck me about all of the aforementioned bands, they all looked like gangs. They looked like they were a gang. And, you dressed like you was a gang with donkey jackets and that, you looked like a proper firm. And
Yeah.
was that a conscious decision to
Oh,
style the band and look like a brotherhood?
100%, 100%. Yeah, we were very into the way we looked. We still are, And oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, yeah. We worked hard at all of that. Yeah.
I want to ask you about something as for most people of our generations and such. We grew up in the place where you got to, pre-internet, the place where you got to see pop stars was once a week on Top of the Pops. That was where you could see them. There was no other ways to to watch and get to see what these amazing people look like. Can you remember the time when you first got told you was going to be on Top of the Pops? And can you tell me about your experience of going on Top of the Pops, and did it deliver what you expected?
Yeah, I do remember. They said, "You look, there's a chance you might be on Top of the Pops this week, so make sure you're you're around." I was like, "Make sure I'm around. Don't worry about that. I'd grown up." Yeah, I loved it. I'd loved it all my life, So, when they told us, I was like, wow. But I was nervous, But so we had to do the recording the night before, the audio recording. We did that the night before, and then we were all practicing how we're going to come over in the studio, on the stage. We practiced a few stage movements, and then we got there on the day, and I'm thinking, wow, this is where Roxy Music were, Bowie, so many bands that I've loved. And I didn't feel that nervous. And then we came to do it. And for the first 20 seconds or so, I think, oh, this is it, no problem. This is going okay. And then I'm singing the first couple of lines, no problem. And then I thought, there's 10 million people watching me now. And that was it.
That's the wrong time to start thinking that, Kevin.
Oh, mate, that was it. My head just went, and then it was over, just like that. It was over. It just seemed to be in seconds. As soon as I started thinking, I wasn't present. I was just in the head, and that was just, it was just gone. It was just so quick. Yeah.
I mean, it's so weird because the reality, I imagine, for a young up and coming band is, you do your Top of the Pops, maybe you have a few drinks in the bar afterwards, and then it's, back home or whatever. But to the outsiders, you presume that these bands, they're on Top of the Pops. They walk out of that studio into a gold limousine, and they go back to like their £1 million mansions. Like, and I'll tell you what, I want to touch on something as well that you said. You said that your confidence went a little bit halfway through when you realised the enormity of the audience and the aforementioned Roxy and Bowie and stuff like that. Over the years, you've had crazy levels of success, and you've been on stages with all manner of legends. And do you ever experience imposter syndrome at all?
Totally, all the time. Still now, terrible. Even when we're doing interviews and things like that, when you're talking, I'm thinking, I don't deserve this. Really, that's always there. Yeah,
really, to that level? Because
not always.
Yeah,
but I mean, it's been here today doing this. Definitely, I don't deserve this. Really, yeah. And sometimes I get free from it, and then it's great. I feel great. But quite a lot of the time, absolutely.
I think it's healthy to have some of it, definitely. I think you'd be a bit of a narcissist if you didn't have any imposter syndrome and you just thought, everywhere you went, you totally owned it. I think that would be a bit worrying. I think it's normal to have an element of it, I think.
Yeah, I probably got too much anxiety, really. But, I just, to be honest, to be perfectly honest, I feel I've been very lucky. I've had some great songwriting partners. Without them, you wouldn't have heard of me. Kevin Archer, Jim Patterson, wrote some great stuff with them.
Yeah. Okay. Tell me the first record you remember buying from a record shop, please, Kevin.
Well, yeah, I was telling you that the first song that made a big impact on me was Can't Help Falling in Love by Elvis. And I think it was 1962, I was 8. And I wanted that for my birthday. And I used to go down the shop. It was like a kind of a hardware shop. They sold like Hoovers and all sorts of stuff. But they had the top 10 singles in a rack. And I'd gone down there and I saw that Can't Help Falling was #1, and they had a couple in stock. So I thought, great, when I get my birthday money in a couple of days' time, I'm going down there. Of course, I got down there, it was gone. And I think the second or third record was Whim Away by Carl Denver. And I wasn't that mad on it, but I didn't want to go home empty-handed, so I bought that. My dad said when I got home, "What'd you buy that for? Not even English. Can't even understand the words."
Do you know what? when I got the songs that you've chosen today,
Yeah.
I went back and listened to them all again, and I hadn't heard that Cold Amber track for a long, long time. And his voice is insane, isn't it?
Yeah, true.
It's a
True.
absolutely fantastically cracker's voice, and
Yeah, that's
he's
true. Really hits them notes.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, tell me a little bit because you said something really sweet there insofar as you could completely recollect that journey there to go and buy Elvis. It wasn't there. 2 days to get my birthday money. I get to go back. Do you think that them kind of relationships with music and that kind of journey attached to it is maybe lost in the kind of digital age?
I suppose it is. I suppose it is. Yeah, it is. But is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. I mean, I think young people have a different relationship with music now,
Mm,
and I think that's all right. I kind of like it, really.
mm,
I haven't got a record player or a CD player.
mm.
I go on Spotify or whatever, and I quite like it, really. Quite like
Absolutely. Like, there's no
vintage.
right or wrong answer to that. Like,
No, no. I think it's probably. I think it's all right, but it's certainly been lost. But having said that, the vinyl's come back in a big way now, isn't it?
it has, yeah, it has. One of the things that I do think is lost to a degree is the artwork, the album artwork, where I think people talk about iconic covers, and most of them iconic covers that people discuss are from 15,
Mm,
20 years and before
yeah,
that,
yeah.
because now it is a little thing on your phone or whatever, or on your laptop, and I do think that's something that's lost a little bit.
Yeah, true. Well, we've tried to do it with this album. We've got for the Feminine Divine, we've got like a really picture I really like. We wanted a picture of a goddess, and Mike from our band found this picture, which is a picture of a goddess called Pele, who's a Hawaiian goddess of fire and volcanoes. So once I saw that picture, I was just like, wow, that's got to be the album cover. So so I'm into that. You know what I mean? I'm into what I'm into, and I don't know. People make of it what they will.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. Tell me about the song that soundtracked your years clubbing, please, Kevin.
sure. Um, like a lot of people, I got into acid house about 88,
Yeah,
when all that was kicking off in London, early 88, mid 88. And it was mind blowing. I went
yeah.
to a club called the Shum.
Ah, fantastic.
Did you go?
I was a little
Was that-
bit too young. I was about
Yeah,
16 then, but
yeah.
yeah, Mark Moore DJing at that point.
Mark Moore was DJing. Don't remember him DJing there, but he was around.
Yeah,
Big. That was Danny Rampling's club. Danny and Jenny
Rampling, of
Rampling.
course. Yeah,
They ran that club, and it was 400 people. It was a little fitness center,
yeah,
and I think that's where all the Lucasade came from, because Lucasade became a thing, didn't it?
of
And
course.
because that was a gym, so they were selling Lucasade because a lot of weightlifters used to drink that. Um, but it was just mind blowing. It was just so different, and it was just amazing. And that's the song. Whenever I hear that keyboard riff, just
Yeah,
you right back to it.
absolutely. Could you sort of draw the sort of parallels to the sort of the influences of sort of the DIY thing that would have happened in 77 in punk and things like that? Could you see that with Acid House, where the fact it was gone completely underground, was very against the system, and it was people making music on drum machines and sequencers and stuff? Could you sort of draw that correlation between it, that sort of punk ethos of
Yeah,
DIY and
yeah, totally, totally. Except if anything, I'd say this was better than punk.
yeah,
Yeah, it was just a great because it's just the music was better, really. A lot of it. I
yeah,
mean, there was some great punk tracks as well, but this was just it was sexy. Um, and of course, E was a big part of that.
yeah,
And it opened everybody up to the music. I probably wouldn't have been open to acid house without
yeah,
dropping a knee, you know, and then it just opened everybody. It changed everything. It
Yeah.
changed everything. I can remember like being in a club in '87, and everybody was standing around posing in their clothes and their ghost year clothes or whatever. And if anybody sort of knocked into you, it could go wrong, you know. It could
Yeah.
quite easily go wrong, you know. If you bumped into the wrong guy.
Yeah.
6 months later, you know, in an acid house club, same guy, you bump into him. Sorry, man. It's okay, man. You okay? It'll feel like that.
Yeah.
It changed, you know.
Yeah. Need more of that.
We need more of that. I mean, there were stories of, well, true stories of like, I think it might have been Arsenal's top boy and West Ham's top boy meeting, whereas they would normally been at each other, they were hugging each other, you know.
Yeah.
It's an amazing time.
Yeah. The government don't want that kind of that sort of stuff happening, do they? They need to shut that down. It was, yeah, I think it's.
You think the government are against all that? Yeah.
I think, right, you know, acid house culture and the fact that people were, you know, putting on raves and people were coming together. I don't think the government were into that. Certainly not. I mean,
They did their best to stop it, didn't they?
yeah, absolutely. They've done the Criminal Justice Act. They brought that in, didn't they? And yeah, it was just a real shame. I think that was, you know, real coming together of people and peaceful as well. And I think like that's not controlled by the government. They didn't like that. And
you're right. You're right. You know that when I was even in Brighton in the '90s or something, and I was talking to a cabbie, and he just said the ravers are no problem whatsoever.
Yeah,
he said they're never a problem. They're fine when they're on E. It was
yeah.
the boozers they were worried about.
I'll be honest. I've been a club promoter for 30 years, and I don't think any problem I've ever seen in a club is because of drinking. And yeah, anytime I've gone, you know, to big raves where, you know, there's been other things available, never seen a problem. You know, there seems to be a lot of love in that room, and and a lot of and that creates that absolute deep love of the music as well. And I think, I think
brought
that's,
everybody together, didn't it?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at what that sort of, up until that point, that whole kind of Thatcher yuppie, you know, everybody's wearing, you know, kind of suits and ties to go dancing in, and all of a sudden people were just wearing shorts and t-shirts and just really letting themselves go. And yeah, what a beautiful time.
It was amazing. Now you're thinking about it, it's making me want to go back there. Sadly, I can't. That was great.
Someone get Kevin a flight to Ibiza. Fantastic. Well, I'm going to take you back to your home county, and I'm going to ask you, please, for track 6, for a favourite song from an artist from your home county, please.
Yeah, there was a band. I was living in Harrow, as I said, from the age of 11, and I had like paraffin round, delivering paraffin around the houses, and on my old trades bike they used to have in them days. And one of the places we used to deliver was the O'Malley family, and they were always really nice. And I remember I don't know how, but I got to hear that the older brother Tony was in a band, and he was in a band first of all called Arrival, and they had a hit with a track called Friends about 1971. And then 2 years later, I moved to Birmingham, and I heard this band on the radio called Kokomo. Heard this track called Anytime, and I thought, wow, that's a great track, so funky. Who's that? And I found out it was Kokomo, so I bought the album and I loved it. And then I looked on the sleeve and I thought, hang on a minute, that's Tony O'Malley. So I was really delighted to see that he was in the band, you know, and I've met him a couple of times since.
Oh, lovely.
We always have a joke about me delivering the paraffin.
Kevin, I asked you a little bit earlier about, you know, confidence, and you've managed to maintain, you know, a fantastic level of success in one of the most difficult industries, you know, in the world, which is, you know, the recording industry. Tell me about how driven you are.
Well, I think in the past I was too driven. you know, like from about 78 to about 85, 86, I was just so driven. I burnt myself out really. So I needed to kind of, you know, step back. But yeah, I'm a lot less driven now. You know, I mean, I want to do well. I want to make good music. It's number one. I want it to look good, you know, the look, the photos, the video, whatever, I want the artwork. And I want it to do well. And I want it to sell. I want people to hear it. You know, there's no point making music just for me. As far as I'm a bit of a show off, I suppose. I want people to like it and appreciate it. So I'm quite driven, but not like I was. You know, I've worked at chilling out really, because you know, the trouble with that passion, it can burn you out if you're not careful.
Do you think that initially, you know, establishing Dexys and you know being very driven, do you think a band needs a, you know, a leader and somebody that has that vision and that drive?
Probably, I think they probably do, because I used to think that, you know, I foolishly believe that if you're good, you'll be successful. You know what I mean? I just thought you're going to get discovered or whatever, and then I realized that's not true. I've known lots of really talented people who haven't been
Yeah,
successful in the right place, right time. But I do find that if you do things right, you seem to attract good energy towards you. You know, if
yeah,
you focus on the music and really work at it and make sure you're happy with it, kind of people come to you. You know, when you're kind of trying to push too hard for everything, make everything happen, it doesn't really happen, you know. But you do need somebody who's got a vision,
yeah,
definitely, who can see where this can go. You totally need that, and has got ideas about how to get there. You need that.
yeah. I want to talk about Eileen a little bit,
Yeah.
and I know you're probably sick to death of talking about that song, but it's an, you know, I've interviewed maybe 600 people for this podcast, and that song's come up so many times, and it has, you know, so many people have such a special relationship to that song, and you almost sort of touched on it a little bit earlier that such a complex arrangement and song, and it's just hook, then another hook, then another hook, and it's just in my opinion one of the greatest pop records ever made, and I want to know when you was in the studio and you'd finished recording that track, did you know that you'd struck gold there? Did you know that that was something ridiculously special?
No, I thought it was good, and I thought it would do well. But I remember there was two mixes of it, and the other one wasn't as good.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and the record company pressed the other one up first, and then I got to hear it. It's like, you pressed the wrong one. You put the wrong one. All right, all right, all right. Well, we'll still sell them. They've done 1,000 or whatever it was, or a
Yeah,
few thousand. But we'll do a new one, and you know, we'll give that to the radio. And it's like, yeah, okay. But we were under a lot of pressure. I did think it was good when we were writing it. I thought, wow, this is really special. We've had other ones like that, but you know, we definitely thought that one was going to be special. Could be, had the potential to be, because you just don't know.
yeah,
You know, it's like, you know, if your record does, if you can make a great record, but if it doesn't get played
yeah,
in those days, that was it, mate.
yeah,
If one didn't like it, forget it.
yeah,
You're in trouble. And we were under pressure. The last couple of singles had flopped. So the record label were like, you know, they didn't want to release it. They wanted to release Jackie Wilson Said, which is on the album.
yeah,
And luckily, Brad, the plugger, said to them, look, this is the one, the radio plugger. And, you know, and yeah. So, you know, I thought it has got the potential, but it wasn't, I suppose, until after the Top of the Pops. I think it got about number 30 odd. And we got on Top of the Pops, and then it just jumped to 12. And we thought, oh, okay,
yeah.
it's going somewhere.
What's the relationship with that song? You know, now, you know, in you know, look back at so many people have had so many different life experiences that are attached to that record. Like, you know, can you? What's your relationship with it now?
I don't really have a relationship with it. Honestly, don't. Except, you know, to be honest, business relationship with it.
Sure.
I'm grateful for the money.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
I had no idea that that would, be such a thing when we were writing it. You know what I mean? For years to come. And we didn't even know that there's more money in songwriting than there is in recording. We didn't even know that. We just, someone's got to write songs. We need songs. So me and Kevin Archer, me and Jim just wrote them because we needed them.
Yeah.
Some of the other band didn't want to. So we just did it. So now it doesn't belong to me anymore in that way.
Yeah.
The experience doesn't belong to me. It's other people's. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But we're grateful.
Right. This is the point where you get to tell somebody about a record that they've probably not heard before. And it's for the last track. It's a song that you think many people may not know that you would like them to go and listen to, please, Kevin.
Yeah. It's the live version of Caravan by Van Morrison from the album It's Too Late to Stop Now. And it's just such a groove. Such a groove. They were on a, he did a recorded version, which is pretty good, but this one is just on another level. The band were just so working with each other, and he's really singing his heart out. It's just something else.
Yeah, it's a wonderful record. I'd not heard the live version until today, and I stuck it on this morning. It's a real gem, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, another one that just doesn't fail to lift me from the intro. Boom, 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 and then into it. Great.
Well, look, we've been talking about sort of music from the past and other people's music. Let's talk about what's happening right now with Dexys. So, new album's about to drop.
Yep, new album's about to drop next week. Wow, that's come around quick. And we start rehearsing for the tour next week. And we're doing quite a lot of big cities in England. Then we're going to Europe, and then we're going to the US. The show is the first half of we're playing theaters. It's a theatrical performance. The first half of the show is the whole new album from start to finish in sequence, and we're going to act it out as well as play the music. We're going to, theatrically perform it. And then there's an interval. Then we do the old stuff.
Fantastic. I look forward to it. I have my ticket. I'm going to Southend on Sea. You're playing just up the road.
Southend, yeah.
So so I look forward to that. And so tour album. There's a single. Well, there's tracks available from the new record at the moment on Spotify, isn't there?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Superb. Well, Kevin, we put together a playlist to accompany the podcast on Spotify for all of the tracks that you've picked, and obviously we put some of the new music from Dexys on there as well, so people can go and listen. If people want to keep up to speed with tour dates, releases, and everything, where's the best place to stay up to date with all things Dexys?
It's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and it's Dexys Official.
Fantastic. If it's all right with you, when this comes out, we'll tag you in it so people can go and follow you if they're not doing so already.
Please do.
Kevin, honestly, when I got the email saying that there was an opportunity to talk to you, I bit their arm off. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, mate. It really has.
Bless you, man.
I wish you all the best with the record, and I look forward to seeing you in Southend, mate.
Yeah, thanks, Stu.
Absolute pleasure. I'm going to press stop. Don't go anywhere.